From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
A Louisiana tradition, but it's not a traditional season.
But a lot of people are reporting they're somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50% of their normal catch.
We head to the crawfish catch in Louisiana, giving back by giving to the land.
So it's a cycle. It keeps expanding over time and making the operations more sustainable.
We head to a ranch that's putting sustainability front and center as our Trust in Food Sustainable Ranchers Tour continues. As farmers in the Deep South prepare for potential flooding after several rounds of rain.
This is probably the worst I've ever seen this facility in 20 years.
And the storms aren't over yet. We're tracking it right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when blood, sweat, and tears meet rain, wind, and sun. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths coming to you from Kansas City while on assignment. Further south of here, the concern is over flash flooding right now, with several rounds of storms continuing to hit Texas and Louisiana. This map showing where areas could see significant and considerable flash flooding. That area shaded in pink could see the highest amount of rainfall. And as Amy Kiley reports, forecasters predict the results from all of this rain will be a nightmare.
Stay vigilant. There's actually another storm system that is slated to be moving through Louisiana.
Some forecasters are calling it a nightmare scenario for weather. Southern states are already waterlogged from this month's severe weather. Now some areas could get as much as 3 inches of rain per hour during new rounds of storms. Forecasters say parts of Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi could see significant flash flooding today. Storms could stretch into Alabama, Georgia, and Florida tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little harrowing.
Some communities in the path of these new storms are still picking up the pieces from previous ones.
We have been through several hurricanes here and through all of the cleanup and stuff that we've done. This is probably the worst I've ever seen this facility in 20 years.
He's talking about this baseball field in Louisiana's West Baton Rouge Parish. It's damaged from a deadly storm Monday. So is this man's nearby home.
I mean, we're lucky that, the roof didn't cave in more than I guess it already has.
Houston's Hobby Airport has a freshly repaired runway after a lightning strike Monday. And in Tallahassee, Florida, residents on one street say debris trapped them at home Sunday.
It was a lot of pulling branches and getting the hedge trimmers out. Unfortunately, we don't have chainsaws, so it took a lot of hand sawing.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Meteorologist Martin Lormore is tracking this rain and when it will finally clear out. Martin?
Yeah, still a lot of that flooding potential. Not as high as it was yesterday across parts of Texas and Louisiana, but it is still making its way across the southern part of the United States. You're seeing that moderate risk of that flooding potential for our Friday as we get into, again, parts of the Deep South and parts of Alabama and Mississippi. Going to be seeing those very high chances to see that rainfall, possibly getting that flooding. Now, as we move into our Saturday and Sunday, we'll be seeing that moving out of the area that it's still sitting in across parts of the Deep South, but still kind of lingering about. Luckily, it should start making its way out of here by the time we get into our weekend. So there's that cluster of showers and thunderstorms that could bring some strong, intense weather there as well. This will continue to that Friday into your Saturday. Again, following that excessive rain outlook staying to that Saturday, but should start pushing its way out of here as we get into our Sunday and Monday, giving some of that relief. Much needed. No more rain across parts of the Deep South, but still watch it very closely in areas in the center part of the country, still needing some more of that rainfall. And just take a look at this adorable photo from Jenny Ring. This is our little girl waving over to Daddy out in the field. Hopefully he's having a good time in crops with his field in Nebraska. We just know here, this is of course a cute photo. I'll have more on that forecast coming up.
The Wheat Quality Council's annual tour wrapping up yesterday in Kansas after 3 days of checking on hard winter wheat conditions. Day 2 of the tour making its way from Colby to Wichita, hitting areas in western, central, and southern Kansas, traveling through some areas that have been in drought. Now, one scout saying the theme for Day 2 was variability, even within fields. Groups report seeing a lot of drought stress and freeze damage. The council coming up with a 42.4 bushel per acre calculation for the day. We'll have the results from the final day of the tour Monday morning on AgDay. Now, we've been talking a lot lately about the high interest in solar projects on farmland. Now it's reported the Biden administration is ending a tariff exemption for some kinds of solar panels imported for China. U.S. officials were set to announce yesterday that the U.S. is getting rid of tariff exemptions on two-sided solar panels. At the same time, the administration also giving domestic solar manufacturers more flexibility to produce panels and components, including tax incentives. Now, the White House National Climate Advisor saying the moves will help, quote, level the playing field for U.S. solar manufacturers. A recent Purdue University Ag Economy Barometer found some farmland owners are being offered more than $1,200 an acre to install solar on their land. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken visiting Ukraine this week. It marks his first visit since Congress passed a military aid package, the assistance coming from a $60 billion funding earmark for Ukraine included in national security legislation signed by President Biden last month. Now, Blinken visiting with a shipping partner in Kyiv for U.S. aid, speaking about the impact of the Russian invasion on Ukrainian farmers.
I think one of the things that we've seen since Russia's reinvasion of Ukraine in 2022 was a full-on assault on its agricultural production, transportation capacity, attacking production facilities, attacking fields, farmers, and ports and other shipment routes. And Ukraine has had to adapt and adjust to this, and it's done so remarkably. Before 2022, Ukraine had been one of the breadbaskets of the world. And now it remains that, but only because of that incredible adaptation.
Blinken's visit comes at a critical time, with Russian troops claiming they've pushed further into northeastern Ukraine in recent days. Sustainability means different things to different people, but for farmers and ranchers, it's about preserving the land and their livelihoods. The Trust in Food Sustainable Ranchers Tour is highlighting several ranches and the climate-smart practices they're using to be more sustainable. AgDay's Michelle Rook caught up with the owners of an award-winning operation in Texas.
Here at G-Bar-C Ranch, north of Dallas, Texas, they're taking regenerative agriculture and sustainable beef production to a whole nother level. The dream for the ranch started nearly 40 years ago when G.C. Ellis purchased the first 450 acres near Ruston, Texas.
Over time, over that 40-year time span, it's grown to about 3,000 acres. And so I'm the second generation that's on the ranch that's trying to come along and learn from my dad and our ranch manager.
Today, the Ellis family is focused on continuous improvement through regenerative grassland and range management that fosters biodiversity.
My job and my conviction is to make sure that this entire ecosystem is working in as natural and healthy state as possible using cattle, because again, that affects my bottom line.
The challenge is the ranch is on the convergence of two broad ecological regions with thin and deep soil types. But with technical assistance from NRCS, they've developed an adaptive grazing system that promotes soil health.
Using rotational grazing, stocking rates, and just really honing in on those recovery periods, but also the right amount of disturbance from cattle. So whether that's more disturbance or less disturbance, that's ecological type dependent.
What we need to do as managers is do a good job grazing those plants to make the plants more healthy, and in turn those plants feed the microbes. And in return for that, those microbes make more plant nutrients available. So it's a cycle that it keeps expanding over time and making the operations more sustainable.
The well-being of their cattle is also the key to a better meat product, and so the G-Bar-C Ranch focuses on low-stress handling, animal health, and nutrition.
The better we eat, the better we're probably going to feel. Same thing with an animal.
Ellis says they've also adapted their breeding program to promote more maternal and efficient females, a paradigm shift that slashed their cost of production.
Our net profits over time have increased on average about 40%. So we're seeing a much healthier income by just focusing on what it takes for us to get from point A to point B.
But in the end, Ellis and other ranchers are dedicated to private land stewardship and making their operations sustainable for the next generation.
They have this conservation ethic and this well-being in themselves that they're wanting to give back not only to their family and operation, but all Texans. And being able to keep it as a whole and being able to provide beef and other products, but also the clean water and clean air and open space is very important to them.
A goal that benefits the entire food chain from producer to consumer. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
Thursday was a better day for cattle and hogs. Michelle is back to discuss the market moves coming up. And later, we take you to an anything but typical crawfish season in Louisiana. John Deere is once again lowering its profit forecast for this year. It's now forecasting $7 billion in income as opposed to the previous estimate of $7.5 billion. Now, it says the cut is due to declining sales of tractors and combines, which is driven by lower commodity prices, which is impacting farm incomes. It's now predicting a 20 to 25% drop in large ag equipment sales. It did, however, report second quarter results this week that beat Wall Street's expectations. Now, the livestock market had a pretty good day on Thursday, while grains, not so much. Michelle Rook is back with more in Markets Now.
Well, mostly lower day in the grains on Thursday, with the exception of July beans. And Mike Miner is with us to visit about that. And let's talk about the grains first of all. We've kind of continued for the last few sessions to run up into some chart resistance, right?
Yeah, we have. Corn market specifically, we had a friendly Friday WASDE report, and then we kind of bounced higher for a couple days, and now we're taking some more off time, kind of fall back to this 20-day moving average, so that July's bounced right off of it, kind of closed right on top of it today, or yesterday it did there. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it reacts around this 457 to 453 type level on July corn. And if we can find some support there after this correction, after a WASDE report found a little friendly, that'll be really interesting for me to watch going forward anyways around this level.
But, is this topping action, do you think, Mike?
It could be. If you look back in towards 2014, further back at the last time we were in a similar cycle, we did peak these grain markets at the end of April, beginning of May, in the low fives. So it would be a very similar time frame of the year, very similar chart pattern. You certainly could. And especially as we make this transition from, planning progress being a little bit slower than normal and having that support along with a little friendly WASDE report. Now we're starting to shift towards, rain makes grain, and we're going to watch the forecast going out because farmers are good at what they do, and they've done an awesome job of getting the crop in so far.
Yeah, so rain makes grain kind of trumps any planting delays that we might have. And we really need a bigger weather story for us to get above those resistance levels that we hit, huh?
We really do. And I think the next time, if we could get some short covering going forward, that next shot higher, we probably could go up and try to fill some of those gaps around that 502 on the December corn, or closer to that 1240 area on November soybeans. So those would be two of the areas I'd be watching on this next go round to short covering off some weather premium, whether it be the United States or Russia or Brazil. Those will be a few things to watch going forward.
Thanks so much. Mike Miner with Professional Ag Marketing, and we'll have more AgDay coming up. Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rook on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
Hey, welcome back. Yeah, it's Friday, and that means we have ourselves a new drought monitor. Now, luckily, things have improved across some parts of the nation. In parts of Kansas where they were sitting in more of that extreme drought, now dropping off a little bit, but still not exactly a great scenario going on in parts of western Kansas. A lot of that winter wheat out there being harvested right now, so they're hoping to see some of that rainfall in the next coming days, and still that pocket in parts of southeast New Mexico, the only part of the country is currently sitting on that exceptional drought. Unfortunately, areas that are not in the drought here in parts of the deep south, Texas, Louisiana, not wanting to see more of the rain, and they're going to be unfortunately seeing more over the next couple of days. Precipitation outlook for the next 24 hours, seeing more of that rain, several inches falling, but it's not just going to be the next day or so. More of the rain still lingering over the next week, and hopefully you're going to be seeing some more of that rainfall across the center part of the country. Unfortunately, again, southeast New Mexico, not seeing any rain for for the next 7 days. Places that desperately do need to see that rainfall, unfortunately not seeing it. But again, parts of western Kansas harvesting that winter wheat, hopefully getting at least a little bit of rain. Little is better than none. But still with the rainfall, we're talking more about that flooding potential. We've been talking about it for the last couple of days. Yesterday had a lot of that flooding in parts of Texas and Louisiana. Now it's moving off towards the east, seeing that 40 to 70%. That's a moderate risk for that flooding across parts of Alabama and Mississippi. It's going to move its way on into the deep south, the southeast, across parts of your Saturday. Still seeing around that slight risk right there in that yellow there across parts of Georgia and Alabama and even parts of Florida as well. This is going to continue on its way out as we get into our next weekend. Luckily with that jet stream really actually pushing a lot of this out. You can see that's where that ridge is right there, pulling in a lot of that rain, and will finally start pushing its way out and bringing much needed relief across parts of the southeast and the deep south. Speaking of Campbell, Alabama, looking at thunderstorms, a lot of rain, high 82 degrees. Going into Bottineau, North Dakota, right near the border of Canada, a little cooler, high 76 degrees. And finally, Ritzville, Washington, cool, high 66.
And later, we head back to Louisiana for a look at an unusual crawfish season. As we first told you, an intense solar storm in space disrupted farm machinery over the weekend. For some, the situation put the brakes on planning for a few days. But now that GPS systems are back online, some are concerned about the message the outage could send to farmers. Kurt Covington of Ag America telling Farm Journal's Matthew Grassi the outage could deter some farm operations from widespread adoption of smart agri-tech systems. He says it should, however, spark an important conversation about what steps they can take in the future to protect agriculture if it happens again, including discussions about creating redundant systems. Because he says if a delay like this affects planting schedules, it might lead to increased yield losses if crops are planted too late, ultimately squeezing profit margins. Case IH is releasing a new Axial Flow 260 series combine. It will be available in June of next year for pre-order. The company says its Axial Flow 260 series is the 13th generation in the Axial Flow family. The new harvester's footprint fits with AEM Class 7, Class 8, or Class 9 combine classification tiers. The company saying that growers who purchase the combine have access to subscription-free integrated technology for the entire working life of the machine. What's the price? Case IH says that information will be provided at a later date. For lots of folks, a crawfish boil marks the start of the summer season. But will Louisiana be able to produce enough this year? We head out to catch some next in the country. The lingering effects of last year's drought and heat wave across Louisiana are still being felt across many crawfish ponds. LSU Ag Center correspondent Craig Gautreaux has this report from Southwest Louisiana.
Generally, the peak of Louisiana's crawfish season hit sometime near the end of April or beginning of May. For some farmers, the season was a disaster, and for others, crawfish are just now beginning to show up at their normal levels. But in the end, most farmers are going to be disappointed in the final numbers.
But a lot of people are reporting they're somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50% of their normal catch. Other places are a bit higher, and then definitely there are places a lot lower.
Some ponds never came into production because of the lack of crawfish or the inability to flood the ponds due to surface water issues. Some farmers feel that they were fortunate to catch what they could.
Looks like we a little less than 50% of the catch up until the end of April. The revenue is probably 75% of what it was last year, so the price has made up for it somewhat. It's just been a little tough to move the crawfish.
Zonbrecker gave up on 200 acres early in the season because of low production, and he said many of his neighbors suffered a similar fate. Zonbrecker is optimistic that crawfish numbers can rebound quickly under the right conditions.
Everybody is going to take stock and a little more serious this year, although we're seeing a lot of crawfish in the rice fields. We're flooding now, so I think we're going to be fine as long as we don't have another drought this summer.
Another area being impacted is the tail meat market. Many peeling plants were idle early in the season because of the dearth of crawfish. Now that the supply has picked up, peelers are working hard to package as much as they can.
They are peeling, not everywhere at their normal full capacity, but they are peeling crawfish to save that shelf space. They want to have their crawfish out there.
Smaller crawfish are preferred for peeling and stocking, so the boiling markets may have higher quality crawfish to sell. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gotro reporting.
All right, thanks, Craig, and that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in farm country.